Jason's asking the question, how did you get a third party in there? Was there an existing relationship, and how did you know it was a good fit with your existing software to the future software? So,
it's kind of funny because all these things are based on trust. And I happen to be sitting in a webinar, and I was seeing this kind of goofy guy moderating it, and it was a pretty good webinar. And I said, wow, he's got some skills that I think he could help us out with. And at the same time, somebody he works with, her name was thrown out, and I'd heard that from a vendor before. And I said, I got to get these folks in, and I think you all know who I'm talking about. I got to get them in and talk to them and see if they can help us. And then it truly became not about them selling us an item. It became about creating a team for us, and they providing a service to us where our team is going to be fully integrated until we see this through. And trust and communication is how we ended up selecting.
So I know you're probably talking about Anne-Marie, but that goofy guy, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I want to switch over to Kathleen on a question of, I think it's going to be that same thread of the trust and communication that your team has shown in integrations. What was that like in dealing with the beginning of the implementation idea, and I'd say as a manager, managing and working with and listening to your folks directly? How did that evolve? Like, what was the process to where it gelled?
Yeah, well, you're right. The trust and communication are crucial. I also think inclusion. So there wasn't any like backroom discussions. An idea was floated that I heard in a leadership meeting. It was brought right to the team. We had meetings about it ourselves. And even, I wish I don't have a train wreck story for my own, but the billing part that we're going through right now, we have not completely implemented. We've done a lot of homework, profiles, provided them work, but it hasn't been like solely on me. Every single person on the team we had a Google Doc drive. All the documents were out there. We were requested information, and we kind of just like picked at it individually. So one person would go in and say, hey, I answered what I thought I knew. And then somebody else would do the same. And then, once it got completed, we actually ran it by the treasurer and just said, are we clear on what they're asking? It's gone so smooth that we just keep waiting for the bottom to fall out, but it hasn't. So yeah.
I'll knock on the wood for you. The one thing I want to call out to the team is anybody on this call who has ever thought of doing a billing implementation or has done a billing implementation, they generally range, depending on the size utility, 12 to 16 months. With Kathleen and her team and everybody involved, their start to finish date of kickoff is 6 months. And so the proactive planning, specifying what needs to be done, asking the questions proactively has had a massive impact on a success. I think they chose a great vendor because that vendor has truly stepped up. Wayne, I'm gonna ask you a question right now, and I hope it doesn't make you start having flashbacks or sweating profusely. But could you tell us about a recent train wreck in part of the implementation without specifics, and how what you could do to avoid it in the future?
Yeah, we began we're going from one vendor to many vendors. So we're going from 1 to 4. And the first one that we chose was our payroll software. And so had to start somewhere. And so, we were very enamored with the product itself. And it seemed to, initially start out okay, but we soon ran into some bumps and grinds. And the biggest one was probably our W-2s didn't come out right. And so everyone on staff really had to pull together, particularly in our accounting payroll staff. And it was really time consuming, but we got it done. We fixed the main part of the problem. We worked together, but we learned from it. And so essentially what we feel is you ought to do if you're doing that is understand all the details involved and ensure that your payroll administrator, I think, gets the proper level of training. And perhaps we rushed it a little bit, for sure. But lesson learned. We're not going to do that with the rest of the platforms that we're doing.
Yeah, if I could add to that, Drew, that it seemed like an easy home run. Payroll shouldn't be that difficult. But I think because of that, we didn't map it. The integration was not mapped as detailed as the customer service and billing integration, which we knew would be a Stephen King novel. That was detailed mapped, and that one's going smoothly. The one that wasn't mapped, not so smoothly. If I had to do it over again, I would even back up before that, and I would look at some of our policies and say, can we streamline some of our weird policies that we have in terms of payroll so that it follows today's standards for a payroll system? We probably could have tweaked that well in advance and it would have made it smoother.